So let us put ourselves in the presence of the source of pure existence, that which we call life, that which enables all living beings to live and move and breathe. Let us consider that every creature that reacts, absorbs, selects, multiplies, is living evidence of the source of life. Let us consider that the reason why there is such a thing as life is because of love. What is love? Love is a pouring entity that pours through all the manifestations that we find in the universe, from the sun and moon, stars and galaxies, to hands and fingers, to lungs, to legs, arms, heads. Let us put ourselves in the presence also of the source of light that gives us a sense of being, gives us a sense of self-reflection, self-awareness. Let us put ourselves then in the presence of the source of life, light and love. Let us visualize these in turn. Let us feel the vibrancy of life as energy all around us and within us. And as we sit, let us feel all this energy pulsing within the heart, raising the diaphragm muscle up and down for breathing. Let us feel it in the very breath that leaves the nose and flows over the lips. Let us imagine this life energy as a vibrant essence. Let us imagine it to be the color of a sunset or the sky that we see as the sun goes down. Let us feel its pulsations everywhere. Let us consider this source of light represented by the infinite blue sky and the infinite space. Like the blue sky, bright in color, cloudless. It is all around, within and without. And it manifests in us as the capacity to think. Let us consider the source of love, that pouring entity, something like water that finds its easiest way, that pours through everything, that sits within the body, giving it shape and giving it life. These three, life, light, love, are not separate entities. They are all one single entity, manifesting in different ways. Let this source radiate to all beings. Let us assert, may all beings be happy, may all beings be peaceful, may all beings be blissful. Let us make a mental salutation to all those great saints and mystics and rishis that have gone before us, that exist today, and those to come. Let us make a salutation to our Guru and the Guru's line back to that source which is light and life and love. Let us make our salutations to that single entity, that single compound of light and life and love, that form of that which we love the most. Let us make sure that we are seated comfortably, and yet the mind is alert, with chest, neck, and head arranged in a straight line. Relax the eyelids, focusing slightly in front. Let us become aware of the body as it sits. Let us consider that before this body existed, some entity was there. Let us imagine how, even as a fetus, it wove like a cocoon a body around itself for a special purpose. Let us consider that all bodies are woven manifestations like angels coming, with bodies woven around an inner entity that is an inner controller. Let us consider the earth on which we sit. Let us consider how forces and the divine were ready to produce the earth and sustain it. There was a time when the earth was not here. Let us think what was there in its place. A set of forces operating that sooner or later condense into what we call earth. When that divine will, power, and knowledge were there, when all those preliminary forces and the divine were ready to produce the earth and sustain it and make it play its part, that pure being of light and life and love was standing to attention. And in the next moment, this earth was formed. And that entity, weaving a cocoon around itself, enters into it. He who sits within this earth and controls its functions from within, controlling it by a kind of remote control, that is the immortal, that is the divine, that is the source of light and life and love. That is the internal ruler, and it is our own immortal self. Let us take an object that grows on this earth, such as a tree. Let us imagine a single tree. Let us see how that divine stood there before the tree was formed and transformed himself into the spirit of a tree and wove the tree around him over 200 years to make it grow to its maximum size, weighing hundreds of tons, defying gravity. That one that spun a tree around itself and made it function for the duration of its life from within is your inner controller. It is the divine self, the immortal. This life consists of water. Without water, there is no life. The water is in the digestive system. It is in the blood. It is that liquid that goes into the cells, making them elastic. That one who is inside the water and controls the water from within. That is the inner controller. That is your immortal self. Let us take another example. Let us imagine in front of us the flower that grows from the earth, using material that is not the same as the flower. And yet, that inner controller takes that material and transforms it into a flower. That one that does that is the inner controller. That is your own immortal self. Let us consider in front of us fire. The one who abides in fire after making it function and uses fire as an office, as it were, for himself. He who fire cannot burn, but who controls the movements of the fire from within. He is the inner controller, yourself, the immortal. He who sits in the internal space, in the interspace between the earth and the heavens, in all the voids, abiding in the interior area, making that his office for the time being. He whom that area cannot affect at all, but he who controls all the motions in that area in space. Light waves, sound waves, smell waves, pressure waves, gravitational waves, and every other wave detected. He is your inner controller, your own immortal self. It is he who uses the air as a home or an office, who controls the operations of air from within, agreeing to be directed here and there. He supports you as breath. He digests your food while sitting within the body, not demanding any recognition. The real creative power of the universe sits there inside you, doing all your work like a servant, processing your food all night as you sleep and wake, and always standing ready. That is your own inner controller. That is your immortal self. And that one who abides inside the sun, who made the sun as a kind of cocoon around himself, which he will no doubt disintegrate in due course when he wants to, and operates within the sun without being part of it. He whom the sun cannot burn or illumine, he who operates the sun from within, he is your inner controller, your own immortal self. Wherever our attention wanders, in whatever quarter, north or south or east or west, in every direction, there we find, abiding there, the inner controller. He controls the space from within. He is your inner controller, your own immortal self. He who sits in what is called darkness, to the human eye, standing there still, abiding in all creatures past, present, and future, that one single entity taking birth from time to time, he sits in all of them without distinction and operates them from within. He's not a part of them, but they are moved by him. He's not affected by them. That one is all their inner controller. That one is your own immortal self. He who sits in the breath that you are breathing now, the vital energy of life, that vital energy that cannot move him, but he moves it. He is the inner controller, your own immortal self. And he who the tongue cannot lick or chew or operate on, he is within, the inner controller, your own immortal self. And he who made the eye and entered into it, who is not part of the eye, who operates the eye from within, whom the eye cannot see, he is your self, the inner controller, your own immortal self. And he who sits in the air uses the air as an abode for the time being, and whom the air cannot hear, who makes the air hear. He is the inner controller, your own immortal self. He who makes the mind, occupies the mind, is not part of the mind. He makes the mind operate, and the mind cannot think of him. He is the inner controller, your own immortal self. What is this immortal self? Let us dive deeply down and see. Let us feel its presence within, knowing that is within everything as an inner controller and an immortal self. Let us feel its eternal presence. Let us feel its constancy of being. Let us sink down deeply until we find it. Your inner controller, immortal self. Now we know that whatever our attention settles on, there is a useful formula. You can analyze whatever it is a little bit and find out that this divine is in the center of it. And when we find this inner controller, we can mentally offer a flower and take the next example and do the same. We can do it down to rock bottom, where we see God there, the internal controller. And with each example, with love and adoration, let us say, Lord, I have gone through all your costumes and find you alone there. That entity that is the source of pure life and light and love. Adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto Thee. Thou art omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Thou art existence, consciousness, and bliss absolute, Sat Chit Ananda. Thou art life, light, and love. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced faith. Let us behold Thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve Thee in all these names and forms. Let Thy name be ever on our lips, Thy presence ever be in our hearts. Let us abide in Thee forever and ever. Let us abide in Thee forever and ever. Let us continue sitting, enjoying the presence of the inner controller, your own immortal self.